Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogram Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. I follow my guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Hello and welcome. I am very honored to have women's life and transformation coach, international speaker, and best-selling author Rosie Aiello with us today. Rosie, welcome.
Oh, I'm so glad to be with you today and everyone who's going to be listening.
Yes, I am very honored to have you here because your story is inspiring, and I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate with this and learn something from you today. So before we get started, I'm going to read a little bit about Rosie, and then I will pop right into the questions. Rosie Aiello is a women's life and transformation coach, international speaker, and best-selling author. After escaping a 25-year abusive relationship in the Middle East, she rebuilt her life from trauma to triumph. Today, Rosie empowers women to reclaim their voice, confidence, and joy while discovering the power of kind love. She co-founded National Love is Kind Day with her daughter, Sunny, dedicating her global mission to inspiring over 100 million women and children to know they deserve safe, kind love. Passionate advocate, Rosie donates 10% of her business profits to support survivors of domestic violence. When she's not coaching, she enjoys bar, indoor cycling, whole food, plant-based cooking, water sports, and sunset walks with the love of her life. Rosie, welcome.
Thank you. And I want to make sure people understand bar is not going to a bar. It's BARRE.
Yes, I should have said that too. Ballet bar, not bar, not a
Right.
drinking bar.
It sounds, and she enjoys going to the bar.
Thank you for the clarification. Yes, absolutely. Well, Rosie, let's start with your story. And I know it's a difficult one, but what was the turning point that gave you the strength to escape a 25-year abusive relationship and rebuild your life?
It's a good question. And I knew from a pretty early on in the marriage that something was, I wasn't happy the way he was treating me. But it would take me 18 years before I even knew I was in an abusive relationship. We lived overseas in the Middle East, and we would go to the United States to visit my family and his friends there too, our friends. And one time I found a book called The Verbally Abusive Relationship by Patricia Evans. That book literally saved my life. It was like reading my autobiography. Unfortunately, she just passed away this past year, earlier in the year. And I just couldn't believe it. It's like now all the pieces, like I thought I was going crazy. When you're in these abusive relationships, you feel like you're doing everything wrong. You're not good enough. You're just being put down, sometimes physically. I had it all. And at that time that I read the book, my daughter was 16. I told her about it because I wanted to affirm to her that, yeah, the way her father was treating her was not right. We grow up, we have to believe, oh, the father and the mother have to stick together to be able to present a united front with their child. But I just felt it was not right. It was destroying her. Little did I know how much. So one day, years later, she was 16. So she was 20, almost 20 and a half, close to 21. And she charged up the stairs one day. She's going to the American University of Beirut. We were in Lebanon then. She was born in Saudi Arabia, and then we moved to Lebanon. And she says, "Mom, you got to get me away from my abusive father." I'm going, what? Because I kind of forgot about that conversation with her. And I go, "You can't wait another year till you graduate?" "No, Mom." And I thought later, well, of course, another year of poison, right? Another year of poison. So as far as the turning point, I mean, it was I would have never in a million years leave without my daughter, no matter what. And custody issues in the Middle East are very complicated, and I would have lost her or worse, right? So I was going to wait till she was 18 no matter what. But she came to me and I said, "Okay," And it took 4 months. I planned the escape. But it 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 transformed our lives, right? It took a lot of courage to do that, to plan something f internationally, somebody who works basically home 24/7. I had a live-in maid. It's like, I don't even know how I did it, swear. It's just like God was watching, that's all I can say, because I had to hide and do this undercover for a long time, and I was feeling the shame. I wanna state this because so many women had shame, and the shame almost killed me, Supatra. I was so embarrassed, I thought, "Oh, this marriage has to work, I have a family." All the religious we're gonna maybe go into that later, but it was just this shame that was just I was just drowning in it and didn't realize how devastating it is that I just
Mm.
kept it. So in 25 years, only 3 people knew in the United States, my brother and my 2 best friends, and then when I was planning the escape, I told 2 more friends in Lebanon because I needed their help. 5 people were the only people who knew in 25 years. I kept it so much to myself.
Oh my goodness. That sounds harrowing. It sounds very scary. Can you, as much as you feel comfortable, give us a picture of what type of verbal abuse and possibly even physical abuse you might have endured?
Sure. It's not so hard now because I've healed from that, right? So, but I appreciate you gently asking the question. I it's like, how many different ways shall I tell you? There are so many ways to be abused. And I'm gonna go with I didn't have it very much, but what goes in a woman's mind. He Most of it was verbal, but there was financial, there was sexual, there was physical as well. The physical part was maybe a couple of times. And it wasn't until I got here in the United States, and what he did one time, he squeezed my arm so hard that it bruised. I mean, you can see his fingerprints on my hand. So he never slapped me. Oh, I should make that be okay, right? He didn't slap me. Do you see the language that we can slip into? We make excuses. This is such a critical part. What women do is I did. I made excuses for all of his behavior. But I remember when we were first married, so I had left my family, my friends, my thriving corporate career in Silicon Valley in finance, and I come over here and I'm sitting, he has me sit down, and I swear he would lecture me for maybe anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, pacing back and forth, telling me, "Why did you don't think of me, you're rude, you're not nice to me, you're stupid, it just like, you don't do anything right, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that." And it's just like, I learned, again, I didn't know this was a survival technique. I finally learned that if I spoke up, it was like adding fuel to the fire, and then he would just scream even more.
Right.
And I had never been treated like this in my life. It was just like, "Oh my god," but and I don't have a support. I have nobody around me to support me, no one around me to hear. So that was an issue. He managed the money. So I'm gonna go into the financial abuse too, right? He managed the money. I would get so much because I bought the groceries, I did the grocery shopping, I did that, but nothing else. And because of my background, I worked in his company. He had a small little engineering company. I did anything that had to do with financial or numbers or whatever, but I never got paid. I never got anything until, I don't know, maybe it was 6 years later, 7 years later, I can't remember now, and then he finally decided to pay me, but then he decided what to do with my check.
Oh no.
So it was just like, and here I am. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. I have an MBA in finance, so I could see it. And I would talk with, when his financial planners came to the house or we went to the bank, I was there. I was talking. I was representing. I was helping him. And but it's control. It's more than narcissism. It's the gaslighting. He would tell me things. I gotta tell you this story if we have time. I'm sorry if I talk too much, but
No, just tell. I mean, this we
you'll
I
just
think people will learn from this, and it's important.
so one time, this story popped up in my mind. We were in Lebanon, so we went to a Christmas concert, which wasn't too far from our house, but we lived up in the mountains, so it was cold, and it was in December. And he had parked the car kind of close to a wall, and my daughter and he got in, and he just had to pull out the car so I could get in. Well, he pulled out the car and then he just left. And my daughter is in the back seat. Now, I never sit in the back seat. I always sit in the front seat. My daughter is saying, "Mom is not here. Mom is not here." He goes, "Oh, stop lying. Mom is here. You're just fooling with me." Right. There's a look on your face like, how can it be? It's just like so out of whack. Until
Wow.
like a mile down the road, she would just scream, "Mom is not here." And he comes back, doesn't even apologize.
No, of course not.
So, but now she's observing this. She was, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10, observing this for her mother. I mean, I have a lot of stories. You asked me how we were treated, and I became a shell of myself. I didn't even know who I was. I was all in survival mode the whole time.
Did he ever go through that kind of typical cycle of abuse where he had the honeymoon
Oh, yeah.
period and then the
Yes.
abusive period?
Right.
That's what most people cling on to, and
Yes.
that's why most people stay in abusive marriages because they equate the actual person to the honeymoon person and not the abusive person. Describe that a little for us.
Yes, it was like a roller coaster. So when he was good and great, it was wonderful, right? It was wonderful. And so then that's where the excuses start to come in. Well, he isn't bad all the time. He's got
Exactly.
all these wonderful, great qualities. It's like, geez, what's wrong with you, Rosie? You can pick up. No one's perfect. You're not perfect. Myself, speaking of, the way. So we start to use this dialogue to justify our relationship with this person who is treating us poorly, but not all the time. So
Mhm.
I don't know if this is gonna be in video, yeah? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this. So I show women this thing. Yeah, I have them tell you, "Put your hands together." And I
Okay.
said, one hand represents the good guy.
Mm.
Let's say your left hand, and the right hand is a good person. I go, "Now fold your fingers like this. Fold them down so you're almost like praying, but with the hands clasped down and your fingers are pointed down. Now, try to pull your hands apart." You can't pull your hands apart. I
Mhm.
go, if you want to stay with that guy, you're stuck with both sides. That side is always going to be there. It's never going to leave. The bad side is never going to leave. That's who they are.
Yes. More
And
so than the good person, honestly. I think the good
yes,
person is a mask, and it is a way to continue controlling the person, keeping them off balance, and keeping them in the relationship.
yes,
Well, give me a picture of what role your inner voice and intuition played in helping you recognize you deserved a different kind of life. And I'm big on this. People listening and really tuning into their intuitive voice is very important in the work that I do.
first of all, I want to say you're absolutely right. It is very important. And I had none of it. I didn't have an inner voice. I didn't know what it was. So I would say it was weak to non-existent, which was a big problem, right? I didn't know the language. I just didn't know it, right? I remember before I got married, I remember feeling something in my gut, but I ignored it. I didn't know that was part of it too, right?
Mhm.
So there were signs of my intuition, but I didn't know anything. And then
Mhm.
because of how he was treating me, my outer voice was squelched. So it was like, I'm just this little mouse. I'm just this trying to survive. Now it's integral to the work I do with my clients and the work that
Mhm.
I did for myself to start really listening to that part because you're absolutely right. It is very important. But I had nothing.
Did
Eh,
it come though? It had to have come when
so
you decided to leave.
so there was, and I recognized this later. Didn't identify it, but at the time, there was that little thin thread running through my brain, Supatra, that was saying, "You don't deserve this. You don't deserve this." And what I did do, which is when was planning the escape, I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's going to sound normal for people who are like me or how I was, is like I felt so guilty planning this escape. It didn't matter how he treated me or my daughter, the guilt, right? The guilt from e everything around me, that I created these mantras. Now, I didn't know what a mantra was back then. I learned that word after I came back to the United States, started taking self-development courses and taking coaching classes and all of that. But this is what I said to myself to keep me going. I must have said it 100 times a day as I was planning this escape. I don't deserve I don't have to be a martyr. I don't have to be a martyr. That was huge to overcome the thinking that you just stay in this marriage no matter how you're treated. I realized that was important to me. I don't have to be a martyr. My daughter and I deserve a joyful relationship and a happy life. And I said those I just thousands of times by the time I did it. It kept me going.
Yep. Mantras are one of my favorite therapeutic tools to use with my clients because not only are they meditative and they help to calm your nervous system, but they help recondition old patterns of thinking into something that is much more healthy for you. I think that is beautiful. So, you've described this journey as going from trauma to triumph, and I can see it already. Give me a picture of the first steps towards healing. What did that look like for you once you did escape?
When we landed, the first week, we went to a retreat, and zoned out,
Yes.
But then almost immediately, we got help. We both went to trauma therapists. It's just I'm a big believer in you cannot do this work alone. You need support. Whether I wasn't in a group, it wasn't really accessible to me, but I had the private therapist, and that was the beginning. And then I was of the belief that I was open to trying anything that I didn't think would hurt me. And I wasn't into drugs or, um,
You
alcohol
didn't
or
go to the
anything.
bar?
No. Yeah. And and I just I tried hypnotherapy, past life regressions, trying to understand myself. There was I read a ton of books. I'm not a therapist and nowhere near the level of you are, but I have read so much that I probably could be a quasi one, you know what I mean? Because I wanted to understand why. You want to validate part of it too was like, how did I get into this? But it's a long story for that. But those are the first things was just taking care of myself. And when we
Mm.
landed, it was in the beginning or the middle of the Great Recession. So things were just wild and crazy then too for someone who had been out of the
Yes, but it
market.
does sound like you took, I think, the most important step, and this is what I recommend to anyone who's experiencing this kind of psychological distress, this trauma, is that find yourself a good therapist.
Yes.
Somebody, and the most important thing, honestly, for people is that you connect with your therapist. That's the
Mhm.
most important therapeutic outcome. Like they've shown that it doesn't matter what the therapist practice as long as you have a connection with your therapist
Mhm.
and you feel safe with your therapist. And then to process through trauma because it is significant, especially when you've experienced
Yeah.
abuse. Now, tell us about National Love is Kind Day. I love that. You co founded this with your daughter, Sunny, and it has such a powerful message. What inspired the creation of that day, and what impact have you seen from it?
We were working on our website, on our business, and our coach said, "Oh, you can have a day, the San Diego can have recognize Love is Kind Day. I go, "Oh, okay." So I gave that assignment to my daughter, and for the city, no way. She went national, you know? So
Wow.
so we created National Love is Kind Day, and the date is July 27th, and that is the date we landed in San Francisco International Airport. So for us, thank you, it represented our physical freedom, and it represents women's physical freedom from abuse. It represents that our mission, which you had said before, which is of inspiring and impacting 100 million women and their children to release the shackles of abuse, to know that they deserve to be treated with kindness, that they can create a productive and joyful life, and if they so desire, to find a kind love of their life. And this has just been people love the mission. People
Love it.
know how challenging it is. It's so sad, and yet it's inspiring, right? That we have to do this. But it means so much to us. I started out being very selfish. It's like I wanted to be treated with kindness. I wasn't no respect, nothing. And it's just like I just was just please I want kindness. And part of the title too was inspired by Mother Teresa. This is not an exact quote, but this is the essence of what she has shared was if you invite me to an anti-war rally, I will not go there. If you invite me for a pro-peace to a peace rally, I will be there. I wanted something to show what is it that we want to go forward, to move forward into something, not against what we don't want. I didn't call it the how to get out of your toxic relationship thing. Maybe that would have gotten more hits from people because they're looking for that. But negative energy begets negative energy. As I even say that, my stomach feels upset.
Oh my gosh, I agree. Well, you use a phrase called kind love as the core theme for your work. How do you define kind love and why is it so transformative for women coming out of these abusive relationships?
I love this because it is. I'm all about the kind love. Because when you've been in a toxic relationship, love it becomes manipulative, and it can be a trigger. Oh, I did this, as he's squeezing my arm and putting purple finger marks on it. I did this because I love you. I had to control you because you were out of control. And it's too triggering for women. Kind love, real love is kind love is using kindness, mutual respect, understanding each other, being open, being compassionate, being empathetic. And it's a dialogue. It's he would say, "Oh, you're not a good partner." Well, I realized I'm not a good partner because he was just for him, he was the team captain and I was just the pawn. And if
Yeah.
I didn't do exactly what he said, then I wasn't a team player.
Yes.
I'm with the love of my life, and we are true team players, right?
Exactly. And I love the use of kind over nice because nice
Oh, it's yes.
it connotes people pleasing and
Yeah.
going against what you might innately feel, and I think kindness just has those core values of empathy and compassion,
Yes.
and love rooted in that actual word. So, how did you reclaim your confidence after abuse? I think this is something that women struggle with a lot. And what strategies would you give to women coming out of abusive relationships to regain it?
Obviously, we don't have the next 10 hours, right, to go through this. I did the work, Supatra. Some women will just like, oh, they're out and then they go into another relationship.
Mm.
Not me. I was very clear. I didn't trust a single man when I landed. I didn't want to look at them. I didn't want to hear them. Nothing. And as I was taking these baby steps of who was I? And I remember hearing, "Oh, you have to be your authentic self." Again, part of the lingo of being an entrepreneur. I go, "What does that mean?" I didn't even know what that meant. Or what about you have to learn how to speak. You have to learn all this. So it was like in another foreign world learning all of these words that were new to me, right?
Mm,
Everyone was new to me. And oh, I know the big one was, oh, you have to take you're responsible. It was like you're responsible. I go, I was responsible for him abusing me. So I had to work on that. And then until I learned, oh, I'm not responsible for what he did, but I'm responsible for how I'm going to live my life. I'm
yes.
responsible for the decisions to go forward. Okay, who do I want to be? Well, I want to be somebody who can show up fully, that I can say, this is right, this is okay with me, and it's not okay. I am done with people pleasing, right? And these are all the core things that I teach my clients. Setting healthy boundaries. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. And the fear of people having to set boundaries. And all of this is the basis of knowing my values. I think, I had values. I grew up with them. I think, I was like picking up s- values like picking up shells from the seashore. I never evaluated them. What
Yes.
did they mean to me? And you cannot set healthy boundaries unless you know what your values are. You just can't.
And I think it's really important too that people understand that people pleasing is a trauma response. It is also something that women are conditioned into from a very young age. We are
Yes.
conditioned to put everyone else before ourselves. And then if you're in an abusive relationship, you do that because you're trying to create a safe environment. And that's just you trying to protect yourself. So I think it's so important that women don't beat themselves up for the people pleasing that they've done in their lives. You had to in order to create safety. But when you create these boundaries, like you're talking about, and you realize that every person on earth inherently, because they were born, have worth. Every person,
Yes.
every person is worthy, worthwhile. You are as well. You can start to rebuild that confidence. And I think that is so beautiful. But we're out of time for this half of this podcast, and I cannot wait to delve into more of our questions because, Rosie, you are inspirational to people, and I'm really hoping that this gets out there to anybody who might be struggling in an abusive relationship. Just know that there is help
Yes.
out there, and all you have to do is reach out, just like Rosie did. So, thank you, Rosie, for joining us for this
Mhm.
first half. And
Thank
tune
you.
in next time for the second half of this wonderful interview with women's life and transformation coach, international speaker, and best-selling author, Rosie.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the ANEW Insight Podcast. Please remember the contents shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the ANEW Insight Podcast tab. And follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.